All right, so I have been using the Unfolded Circle Remote 3 for just under 2 weeks now. Been using it every day to control my system, to evaluate it, but I do have to be honest that I have not yet decommissioned my Harmony Elite Remote. I still have it in the system, still have it set up. Dock is in the rack as well, and so I did that particularly so that I could make this video. I know many of us are coming from Harmony Elite remotes. It previously was kind of the best option for DIYers while it was being manufactured. So I felt like it was a pretty appropriate video to kind of go and, directly shoot them out. I've used them side by side since I've had it, and I've come away with some pretty interesting thoughts, some things that I honestly didn't really expect. And, definitely looking forward to kind of talk about it and give you kind of the ringer of what I've thought comparing these two. Honestly, excellent solutions, but there are reasons why you may prefer one over the other, and at the end, of course, I will tell you the decision that I end up making for my system. And yeah, from there, I think we can go ahead and get right into it. All right, so we are taking a look at the Harmony Elite, which is probably many of us kind of our previous control solution, and I'm going to be kind of directly comparing it to the Unfolded Circle Remote 3. Had the Remote 3 for, I think, exactly 13 days. That's the time that I'm making this video. So haven't really changed much compared to my last configuration. So really, it's just been living with the thing. And I think that puts me in a really good spot to kind of shoot these out compared to, the old versus the new. I know a lot of us are taking this roadmap, so felt like there was some value in talking about this here. And so I actually want to take the new one away a little bit and kind of focus back to probably what was, old trusty on our old systems here. None of us were fortunate enough to go to some kind of custom control solution. I'm sure many of us are familiar with this guy, and it's the, Harmony Elite. Has the matching hub and charging dock. I want to talk about what I think is cool about it, what I like about it, what has given me joy using it. For a little bit of background, I grabbed this at a pretty good deal off Facebook Marketplace. I think I paid around $60 for the full unit, which, CLDs were going for, 200, 250. So I got it at a good deal. It replaced what was already my existing sofa baton, which disappointed me to endless degrees. Kind of really unfortunate there, but I did grab this shortly after putting together my system, and man, when I first hooked it up, it was night and day. I love the remote. It was so much faster than the sofa baton. Sure, the setup process was a little long in the tooth with the Harmony app and how long that took to get configured, but ultimately I got it to a spot where it was usable in a very short amount of time, and I'm happy to have used it. And so one of the first things that I think would be considered a pro, depending on who you are, is going to be the shape of the remote. So if you notice here, we've kind of got this raised back. We've got this little spot here that just kind of lets your finger sit just perfectly. I mean, it's even holding it right now. It's a nice feeling remote. And I think people will miss that more than they think when they just kind of see the Remote 3, and it's kind of more just kind of squared bodied off look here. So I think many people are going to like that as well. The next thing that I think that would be a positive, especially for many people, is just kind of the more tactile feel of the buttons. I think for sure it's a lot just kind of clickier. It's definitely more tactile feeling. There's definitely more kind of confirmation that you've pushed a button. On top of that, there just are more buttons on it that can be kind of configured to your liking. If you're just someone who not a huge touchscreen person, you want maximum amount of buttons, there's more buttons here for you. If you're a tactile person, they do honestly, genuinely just kind of feel better as well. So I could understand that as well. But overall, just a really nice feeling remote. It's got plenty of buttons. It's got buttons that feel nice and responsive and give you that kickback that you really desire. The next thing I think that is really useful about it is it's just generally coming with a bigger infrared code library, being tied into Logitech Harmony, which has just been around for so long. If you have a lot of legacy IR devices, cable boxes, Man, what else would be kind of considered legacy? But cable boxes, VCRs, DVD players, I guess. If you still have those in your system, you may not have the best of time, or you will spend time making the unfolded circle have to learn a little bit longer, where I know this is just going to have a lot of code bases as well. And that puts us at a good spot, especially if you're just running legacy devices that maybe all can't be connected via IP. I think there is a lot to still want to use this remote for that, time saver. The other big pro of the Harmony, which I think you will understand as I get later in the video and talk about some of the things I've experienced with the Remote 3, but the instantaneous wake up is really nice. There is no time to reconnect, being that, especially, the connection to my receiver is going to be infrared with this setup. And so it's just snappy as a dime. I don't have to wait for anything. I can pick it up. Something hits me too loud, I'm already, pressing volume down real fast, and it's super responsive. There's no hang time on that. It really maintains that Bluetooth connection to the Harmony hub very, very well. It's a robust system in a good way. The other thing that I really have come to like is that the dock and the hub are actually separate units. I can charge the Harmony Elite much, much easier because it's not connected directly to the hub as well. Again, with Remote 3, they've combined them, but I was fortunate enough to get an extra dock that doesn't make it a problem for me, but it may make a problem for you in your system if you're only going with one dock. That is your main IR blaster. It's not two separate units like you would find with the Harmony as well. Again, one of the things too is at this point, this is going to be an aftermarket device. You're subject to the condition that you can find it in. But I mean, if you find it in good condition, it's still a rock solid choice. I mean, I used it while I was waiting for this remote. This was when they expected it to be able to go to December last year, and they didn't make that dead mark. I set up my whole new system that I'm using with this remote, and I've had a good time. It really wasn't causing too many issues. It was a good soldier. I liked it, but there are just some things that make it not the solution that I think is going to be good enough for us going forward. And so kind of starting with those out, obviously it's just kind of end of life status. There are not manufacturing these anymore. We are at the mercy of Logitech keeping those servers up so that we can still add devices and change those. And that is kind of a strenuous process to have to do so. It takes a little while, but again, the My Harmony app will still work. But, there's not going to be any more IR codes, updated devices, those new projectors that come out, your Epsons, your JVCs, you're going to be learning those codes. And when you're at a point where you are having to, learn new devices manually, on such an old piece of hardware like this, it makes me kind of reconsider what the best option is going to be. And again, that also brings me to kind of, some of the aging software. It can feel a little irresponsive time to time. It's just not very snappy. It feels very much kind of legacy in that way, and again, as me showing it off here, it's not looking too bad as well. But again, it puts it at a good spot. It's pretty interesting. I definitely have enjoyed using the remote, especially compared to my Sofa Baton. But I do have issues occasionally with the Harmony Hub not being able to connect to Wi-Fi as well. Not the biggest deal, but when I do need to make a configuration change, I do need it onto Wi-Fi. My Harmony Hub and my last setup was just controlling my Apple TV via Bluetooth and everything else via infrared. So in that setup, it was very, very solid. It was very robust. It was very reliable. Brings me to really just the next kind of point where I know people have gotten this working with, IP address integrations. To me, that looks like it's kind of a clunky solution. Again, just being that the remote isn't too responsive, but I know people that have successfully done it. Many of you are doing it, but I do think you will have an easier time doing that in Remote 3, which I'll talk about a little bit later. The other thing too is, man, these bezels are just huge. It looks sleek. I'm not gonna lie, but it also, holding and looking at some of these other control solutions that have been out there, Ava Remote or just, your Control 4s, it's kind of ugly looking. Not gonna lie there. just in terms of kind of the screen. But the last thing that I think really made me long for a new remote, which is kind of ironic when you finish out the video, is just the battery life was not very good on this remote. It was getting worse and worse as I was using it, consistently requiring charges, dying on me, missing connections to the dock because of low battery. Overall, just, wasn't the solution that I was really looking forward to. It'd be kind of a situation where if you miss a night of charging it, it's going to die on you in the middle of the next day. You're going to wake up to it being dead. And then, I didn't really have like any type of backup situation. So you'd have to dock this, wait for my system to come online, or wait for this to come online to be able to bring my system up, and then, put it back on and dock it and watch something and have to get up consistently. There was the My Harmony app as well that worked plenty fine for, controlling devices, but it was a little slow as well. But it did give you that option of having your smartphone as kind of a backup method that I do use a few times, of course, as well. Having an iPhone letting me control the Apple TV worked out pretty good. But overall, I know in terms of that kind of battery problem, it is user replaceable, but I could never, these screws are stripped for me. I could never get it out and replace the battery. So therefore the battery for life for me has been bad enough. And I knew that Remote 3 was just going to be coming along the way. So overall, I think there is still value in owning these. But it really depends on price, and it really depends on condition as well. Again, you can get third-party batteries, which solve a good amount of the issues. Again, it really just depends on your gear. It depends on where you see your upgrade path going to as well. How invested are you in, home automation? Are you using something like a home assistant as well? These are all questions that need to have good answers for you to justify still acquiring a Harmony. But I do think there is a certain type of person that, this remote could still have value for. Especially someone, again, who's got legacy equipment and, doesn't necessarily require the latest and greatest, the newest cool integrations all going over IP. You need something that'll blast IR codes and is robust and reliable. This is a pretty good option. Again, I am sad that Logitech ultimately pulled out of the game. It's a really huge loss for us. I know there are, tons of these out on the market. This just ended up being kind of the elite, is what they said, the best one that you could reasonably get. And so, it's a sad day that a lot of us are looking to decommission it so soon. But doesn't look like we're going to be too absent of options as well, but we will see going forward with that. All right. So we are bringing Remote 3 back in play here. Been the focus on the channel for at least a couple weeks now. Got a good amount of content on this remote. And so I want to, again, kind of do similar to what I did with the Harmony. We're going to talk about some pros. We're going to talk about some cons. And in general, just where I feel kind of at that 2-week mark of the remote. And so going right away, starting with the pros, I actually do like the shape, the kind of molded, just kind of straight. It's a rectangle, basically. A really thin one in kind of every direction. I personally like it. I think it feels really modern. I do understand, though, how you could tend to prefer the more molded, fit in your hand kind of feel that the Harmony would bring to you. But for me, this works out really good. I actually like how it feels. I like the aluminum. I like the textured feeling. I love this kind of glass here for the wireless charging, which I haven't really delved into yet. Just been kind of docking the remote for charging it as well. And the next thing that I really, really liked about the Remote 3 is going to be just how a lot of the integrations just worked right out of the gate for me. A lot of the, basic stock ones like my Apple TV, the Denon one, the PlayStation Network was one that was, added after the fact. But these two, the Apple TV, the Denon one, which is really, again, just how I, control my devices, they were rock solid. These were the ones right out of Unfolded Circles. Excellent. Really a big fan of using those. Again, it gave me that ability to get my volume as well. It's just, seeing all that playing content. I mention every video because I do think it's kind of one of the big killer features is being able to show your media on there as well. So it enabled a lot of cool features of the remote that I was looking for, and I had those set up, so quickly. You could check in my setup and configuration video. It went it went rather smooth. The next thing I really like about it is just the configuration. It's a lot stabler. I'll throw in some footage here as well where, like, if you do run into disconnects while you're configuring the remote, it holds its place. Nothing like that causes issues. It's not like Harmony where if it can't connect to the server, it causes issues. Remote 3 is fully hosted on the remote itself on your local network. So really no issues with that as well. I really love that the configuration is it's local to you. It's local to the remote. There's no check-in. There's no cloud. There's nothing like that at all. It works just as you need it to, whenever you need it to. As long as the remote is online, you can get to it. You can make those configurations in the web configurator as well. And of course, one of the big things is just that growing community support. I would argue that, well, at least for Remote 3, we are at the infancy of it. I know Remote 2 backers probably had a little bit of a bigger hurdle getting this to where I got it. I jumped in pretty early on the Remote 3 shipping, but pretty late on the software side. So I think the software was in a lot better spot than those Remote 2 users. But again, as far as Remote 3, it can only go up from here. And the software seems to be the same between the two. So Remote 2 users as well, they are only going to get a better remote as it goes on. More people buy the remote, more people acquire it, more people build their own custom integrations. I mean, it's just an endless possibilities of what we can do. And so this new user base, I'm really excited to people getting these. I'm really excited that they are saying that they're going to be able to get these out, fulfilling pre-orders on the actual website, not the Kickstarter backers. End of Q3 is what they're saying. I'll be really excited if they get to that point of releasing it as well. But there's already tons of custom integrations to start out with as well, just on the Unfolded website. So go ahead, type your device, see if there's an Unfolded one, or if one of the lovely community members has created their own integration, you can leverage that as well. And I think the last pro that I can't really speak to in present day, but it is going to be Home Assistant. If you have an existing Home Assistant setup, this is the control solution for it. This is what this has kind of been not necessarily marketed as, but coveted as between the community. Like, you've got your remote for Control 4. This is your remote for Home Assistant. I suspect people that have already kind of done the grunt work, the dirty work to get their Home Assistant set up. This is going to be really easy to just kind of attach it and give you a physical way to interface with that, mixing things with Home Assistant and mixing with some of the integrations that are default with the remote. I think you are likely to have a really good experience. I am finding out that some of the advanced kind of things that I would like to have this remote do probably go a little bit easier with Home Assistant. So I will be taking a little bit of time to do as much as I can again in Remote 3 without Home Assistant. I do still really care about evaluating it on its own for the kind of lowest common denominator user, which I feel like I fit pretty good. I had a Harmony, was working good, just needed this thing to do the same thing and be a little bit more reliable. I think I'm at a good spot there for that. But if you have existing Home Assistant, I'm going to be kind of making some content on that, as well as kind of getting started with Home Assistant, what types of things I want to set up and leverage. But I do think it's a really big positive. Again, being able to kind of interface and jump onto an existing smart system, ecosystem, smart home selection, I think is really valuable. And I think will give a lot of people that have already done that grunt work a really nice way to jump on and just start using the remote as they see fit. All right. So a lot of this channel has been talking very positively about the remote. I have mentioned a few things that have, given me grief, caused me issues as well, but I do want to be a little bit transparent. So I do have a list of cons here as well. And the first one being that the buttons don't particularly have like too tactile of a feel, especially when you're comparing it directly to something like the Harmony Elite. The buttons almost just kind of have a little bit of like a gummy feel. And it still, don't get me wrong, it still feels like you are pressing a physical button. Still get that nice like confirmation, that kickback that you expect out of physical buttons. So it's not that they feel awful. They just feel a little softer for my tastes. And in general, it can, if you're not a huge fan, you need tactile buttons. This doesn't particularly have those in spades at the moment. They're definitely just kind of a little bit softer feeling, but nonetheless for me, I got used to it pretty quickly. It's really not a big deal. But I do, again, enjoy it a lot. And, again, if it's just really, if you're just one of those people that cannot adapt to it, you need those clicks. These bottom ones have a little bit more of a click to them but like, mostly you're going to be navigating, you're going to be adjusting volume. You could use the slider, but it hasn't really been too responsive for me. I like my buttons more specifically, but yeah, a little bit softer on the button feel. Really just kind of depends up to your tastes. I got used to it rather quick, and I still think, it's not a deal breaker for me by any stretch of the means. The next thing, and this one is kind of a really big bummer, man, because talking about the cons of the Harmony Elite, the battery life was just one of the biggest issues that I was hoping to solve, and unfortunately, this has not solved it. I don't think I would go as far as to say that it's worse than my Harmony, but it's pretty close to about the same. I've kind of just gone ahead and conditioned myself to just start docking it anyway. It's a nice, pretty remote. I want to have it safe and protected on the dock anyway, but I was, before I got it in and started using it, I really was just hoping that this was going to be a remote that I could leave sitting on the couch for a couple of days or two and not have to super worry about it. But in its current incarnation, that's not the case. I mean, I understand how thin it is. There ain't too much room to fit a big juicy battery, but it was a remote. Hopefully optimizations can be made in software to really kind of nullify that as well. But again, kind of like I said in my impressions video, just make sure you dock it. Every opportunity you get won't be the worst issue in the world, but it certainly doesn't fix kind of my biggest issue that I had with my, Harmony Elite. The battery is, just pretty close to about the same, unfortunately, in that regard, but nothing, that makes me want to throw the remote out the window or anything. I'm sure it will get better. As I said earlier in the pros part, they can only make it better. They can only make it more optimized, and I do expect the team over there to do really good work. Again, I'm evaluating this very, very early. That's kind of the whole point. I just want to get an early perspective on the remote itself. So that's really what we're doing here. And we'll be able to kind of check out in a bit, in a year, 2 years, where will this remote be? What will it be able to do for us? That's a really, really interesting and exciting prospect for me. All right, so now we are at the time where I talk about the most frustrating thing about this remote, and it is its disconnect frequency, but mostly the amount of time it takes to reconnect to Wi-Fi. I typically set the remote to the maximum sleep setting of 5 minutes, where if I'm tweaking things, it won't go offline as fast, but if the remote goes to sleep again, anything past that 5-minute mark, it really does take a while to reconnect and then, start actually being able to push commands out to my system. So if something really loud happens 10 minutes into a movie, it is not responsive like my Harmony Elite was. It really needs to kind of, again, connect itself to Wi-Fi. And there are things, setting static IPs does help with that a little bit, but ultimately, see here, I've let it off here. If I want to go watch Apple TV and pause it, see it's showing me the service is unavailable. If I try to up my volume, see I'm pressing it, it's not going through. It's taking this long, and now finally it's gone ahead and actually connected to my system. And so that can get really, really frustrating. Again, if you just kind of leave it, set it, forget it, you're using a movie, it's fine. But I really would like to, kind of get down to the wire and why that reconnect speed is so slow. Is it dependent on Wi-Fi range? Do I need to invest in, more access points around my home? I will, after this video, kind of experiment and try different Wi-Fi bands, as this is on my 5 gigahertz network, which I thought was more important for speed, but could be a coverage issue. I'm not sure. These are things that I have to test, and the community as well. Feel free to weigh in if this is something that causes issues for you, but it is generally kind of the most unpleasant experience there, where it's just not wicked fast. But in general, that's pretty much my biggest gripe of the remote. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. Those things, again, are kind of my main point, where the software will get better. They will work on it. It can only be a better remote tomorrow. And that's really what I'm excited for. I'm excited to continue messing with it, to continue discussing with you guys and just the Unfolded Circle community in general as well. Again, I really appreciate you guys checking out these videos as well. But from there, that puts me in a pretty good spot to tell you which one I will be sticking with in my system. I'm sure the answer may be pretty obvious, but we'll check in just a moment. All right, so overall, those were my thoughts in kind of comparing and contrasting the two remote solutions. What were the pros of each, the cons of each, and I'm sure it's not a surprise to anyone that I'm going to be sticking with the unfolded circle Remote 3 for my setup. The biggest reasons are, the big kind of pro that I had for the remote, and that being that, this is a work in progress. The hardware is in our hands. The software can only come up from here, and I'm all in with the unfolded circle solution. I think that there's a lot of promising stuff here. I think Martin and the team, once they get a hold of the hardware distribution, I mean, just taking a look at the Discord, highly recommend you guys joining. So many people are getting shipping notifications. So many people are getting the remote. This is really exciting. So, again, that community aspect, it opens up a whole new user base of people that are, developers smarter than the average folk that are just going to be able to build more and more integrations. This is only going to become a bigger device that I kind of expect here in 6 months to a year from now. Most of these videos are going to end up being irrelevant, so that's kind of interesting to look for. And so again, I like kind of being at the start of the remote being released. And I think going forward soon here, I will be digging into Home Assistant as well, just to accomplish some of the features I mentioned earlier as well, just to really, again, get the most out of the remote. But of course, again, I still do want to judge it on its own merits as well, which I will continue to do. But we'll also have some content in terms of integrating it with Home Assistant, especially for someone who hasn't done so before. Again, I think there'll be a solid amount of value in checking that out. So appreciate you guys hearing me ramble about these remotes. Definitely not the last I'll keep talking about it, but definitely want to hear from some Unfolded Circle community members as well. Have you gotten your remote yet? Are you using a Harmony Elite? Was there anything here that surprised you to hear me say? Is there anything that you disagree with, or any additional thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Want this to be conversational here and want to get the most out of the remote for everyone that's going to get one. And, we'll have kind of hit the ground running with them to see how they get it out to mass market as well. But again, thanks for checking out the channel. Feel free to please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Catch you later.